All right, let's catch a little MSDNC. See what the other side's saying tonight.
Rachel Maddow, and this is the Rachel Maddow Show. Recently, President Trump decided to make a black kid with cancer an honorary Secret Service agent. Personally, I think it's disgusting. If Trump really wanted to honor someone, he should have honored a black kid with cancer who's also gay and stands by Ukraine. Joining me to defend this behavior is John Fetterman. Go ahead, John.
Well, I don't see what the issue is, Rachel. I think our party's behavior was pretty deplorable that night.
So right-wing propaganda, that's all you have to say to defend this? You probably think that black kid with cancer is brave, is that it?
Well, yes, obviously.
That kid's not brave, John. Did he go through gender reassignment surgery? Is he Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? Is he a fat chick? Those people are brave, John. Speaking of brave, I'd like to bring out my next guest. Al Green. Al, I understand you're trying to impeach the president again.
That's right, Rachel. I will be impeaching the president again on the basis of dastardly deeds proposed and dastardly deeds done.
Wow. And what kind of dastardly deeds have been done?
Well, I was removed from Trump's speech because I'm a black man. And to add insult to injury, they honored a black child who has something called brain cancer. It's absolutely dastardly to imagine you have a disease.
Al, the cancer isn't imaginary. It's in his brain.
That is what I am saying. This child who has brain cancer is stealing Medicaid benefits from people whose diseases are not all in their mind. That is why we need to impeach the president again.
Let them try. I'm busy saving the country. Live from Times Square, it's That Kevin Show.
Somewhere in the bowels of the city that never sleeps,
Kevin McCullough, radio host with Salem Media,
is a man also not sleeping.
Syndicated radio talk show host Kevin McCullough.
And that guy would like a word with you.
Many of you know him as Nostradamus.
Of course that Kevin Show is going to be great. The only thing that could be greater, of course, would be That Donald Show. We don't have that, so we have That Kevin Show.
Featuring the music of Dick Tunney and the Dream in Color Orchestra. Straight ahead, from TikTok to crypto, Trump on technology, Daniel Cochrane. Paul Jacobs with stories you won't soon forget. Kristin Wollett and Brett Varvel from Season 2 of County Rescue. Sketch comedy from Nick Peterson and Al Berry. And making his debut, Josiah Queen in the Spotlight. And now, from Times Square, the man who ICE this week tried to deport until he whipped out his gold card. Here's the cover.
There's so many things wrong with that, Dave, that I can't even begin to tell you how wrong it is. First of all, the gold card, I will never have probably access to because it costs $5 million to get. That's just your... I don't like to pay for credit cards that cost $70 a year. Like, I just use the freebies. But a $5 million just get into the country card? Besides, I'm a citizen. I don't need one. I'm here legally. And, you know, the color of the card and the rights that the card gives you became a very big subject this week because of this fella, Khalil, what's his name, at Columbia. In fact, I had my good friend, I don't normally tell stories on my friends, but I had my good friend Alex, who has not done this in a while, but he calls me up and says, hey, can we get together on Wednesday and go down to the watering hole? I said, sure. So late afternoon, we get there and we're chatting. And I thought he maybe wanted to talk about something related to faith or something about his journey or his kid. His kid and my kid are besties at school. And I didn't know what he wanted to get together to talk about. But he was like, Kev, I really have... and he voted for Trump. And he thinks the other side is crazy as nuts, which they are. So let's just be very clear about that. But he says to me, he says, Kev, I don't know what to think. And I said, about what? He said, well, the whole thing with Gaza, the whole thing with the protests, the whole thing with the kid at Columbia. And I said, well, okay, those are very many different things, but they are big deals. So what's the struggle that you're having? And it ranged. It kind of went from, did we mow down, citizens of Gaza that weren't sympathetic to Hamas? And it's hard to make that argument because you don't know which citizens are loyal and which ones aren't. Hamas took over hospitals and subjugated everybody that they had, but I'm not even sure that they subjugated them. Because what we're finding out is that when they parade the dead bodies of children going back to the hostage families, all the Palestinians come out and cheer. Yay, dead babies, dead Jewish babies. Yay, good thing. And so it's hard for me as a lover of Israel, who's been there a few times. It's hard for me to see that and go, oh, well, yes, these are obviously peaceful people that were taken over by Hamas. That plus they elected Hamas to be their leadership. So it's just hard. So we had a long talk about that. And then we got on the subject of Khalil, what's his name, from Colombia. And Khalil, what's his name, who is not even a student anymore, is here on a student visa, green card. He goes, it's not right. They shouldn't be able to just deport someone who's here legally. And I said, well, why wouldn't they have the right to deport someone who's here legally? Unless they're a citizen. You can't deport citizens. But, and I the further I looked into this, the more I saw that there was, debate about it, certainly on Twitter, or X, whatever it's called. You go on there and it's like, depending on what's in your feed, it can be just nothing but bombs being dropped for a long time. And I recognize that I'm talking about a terrorist group and I'm joking about dropping bombs. Probably not the best thing. But nonetheless, that's what the left is doing. The left spent its entire week this week defending a kid, literally in his 30s, from another country who came here, learned under our freedoms, learned under the auspices of all the good that American society allows him to experience, and then took up arms verbally and who knows, maybe physically, but at least verbally, on a college campus to say, down with America, up with Hamas, radicalized beyond radicalized, and inciting that into other people. And we're supposed to sit back, twiddle our thumbs, look at it and go, well, there's nothing we can do about it. Sorry, he's here on the green card. I'm sorry. If you're here on the green card, you have to play by the rules. You have to be nice. You have to promise not to destroy our nation. The issues of free speech don't apply to you the same as they apply to the citizens. That's why citizenship is worth something. That's why it means something to those of us that have it. And unless you've gone through the process of becoming a citizen, you don't have any of the protections that the citizens have. Now, you may have common societal protections that the laws embody, but you don't have any constitutional guarantee to anything because you're not an American. And this is what we're really not used to. We're really not used to a president who stands up for America and who says, I'm going to make sure that we do what's right for the country this time. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to see to it. And so when the president said, if we need to deport him, we're going to deport him, so be it. It really is, when you look at the brass tacks of all of it, it comes down to understanding, if you hate us so much, we don't have to let you stay. Even if you have a gold card or a green card. But certainly if you have a green card. If you have a gold card, you're probably going to be investing into the society. You're probably going to be making the society better on some level. Different level of commitment. Yes, it's not fair. It's not the same. They're not the same. You bring wealth and invest it into the American life, you're going to get treated differently. That's just the way it works. Green card doesn't give you any right to come at us. By the way, this weekend, we are praying that American hostages are coming home from Gaza, finally. We're hoping. We're praying. All right, friends, we are on a very important part of our journey. I've been telling you about Food for the Poor, and I've been telling you about these 100 children in Haiti and Guatemala that do not have enough to eat for the coming year. And I've told you that our friends at Food for the Poor are committed to being there, making sure that they have rice, beans, sometimes a little chicken, a little goat, some other things that go with it, clean drinking water, for the coming year. Now, a lot of people are against bringing people here to feed folks that are starving in other countries. I'm in that camp. I don't think we need to export them from where they are and import them to the U.S. to do that. But if I believe that, then I have to put my money where my mouth is. And friends, we have limited time. I've about 3 more weeks to help these final 100 children. The number is 855-349-4673. You're going to hear a lot more about it on this episode of That Kevin Show. 855-349-4673 or instagood.org. But it costs $80 to normally save one because we've got a match during this show. $80 will save 2. Make a gift, instagood.org, instagood.org, or 855-349-4673. Coming right back, it's That Kevin Show.
From New York, that Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square. Kevin McCullough, glad to have you with us. That Kevin Show, thatkevinshow.com, That Kevin Show, all social media. Kind of hard to miss us, That Kevin Show. Very pleased to talk about the kind of latest tech news with Daniel Cochrane of the Heritage Foundation. He heads up the Tech Policy Center there and works very hard to help us understand some of the more complicated things as it relates to this area. But Daniel, thanks for being here. This week, you've got whistleblowers at Facebook making noise. What was the real story?
Yeah, so a former Facebook employee is coming out with a book talking about her experience working with the company back in 2015, so about 10 years ago. And as part of that memoir, she talks about some of the internal dynamics and some of the decisions that Mark Zuckerberg and then Sheryl Sandberg were making. And I think on the top of those revelations is that Facebook was trying very hard. They were bending over backwards to work to please the Chinese Communist Party so that they could gain entrance into China. And some of what was published in just yesterday in the Washington Post and in other places sheds light on just how tight the company was trying to become with an authoritarian regime, a really concerning thing for Americans.
There's a lot of revelations that are in this book, and some of them very unattractive for some of the personalities of the Facebook universe. Did we learn things that we had not known in her manuscript?
So I think it's a confirmation that Mark Zuckerberg in particular, he sort of changes with the wind. And back in 2019, he gave a speech at Georgetown and he talked about the importance of free speech online. And he also noted that Facebook refused to go into China because of a value misalignment. But according to his former employee, that's really not the case. Instead, he was going out of his way to create tools that would have allowed the Chinese government to censor their own citizens. Again, this isn't just like complying here and there with a few tax policies. This was creating an entire apparatus, basically creating a Chinese version of Facebook that was easily censored, and they were doing that to gain entrance to the Chinese market.
Yeah, it's one thing to say, oh yeah, we're misaligned, we don't share the same values, and then to look at the potential for the size of that market and to go, I really would like a piece of that. And sadly, the more corrupt choice of the two was the one that he was working towards. But what was happening simultaneously here at the same time? Because if I'm remembering correctly, Obama uses Facebook quite effectively for his campaigns, Trump somewhat effectively, but there's an about face with Facebook and Trump between his first and second elections, and they end up practicing censorship against the American people, do they not?
Oh, absolutely. And so in 2016, you see this turn explicitly. So both at Facebook and Google, those are, I think, the two best examples. Internally at Facebook, you had an entire group of employees who said that they were wanting to basically use Facebook, weaponize it against the Trump administration, against Trump when President Trump was elected the first time in 2016. And at the same time in Google, you had VPs at the company saying they wanted to use Google's power as the world's leading search engine to basically shape the public square against Trump and to essentially like push their own agendas and policies, which we know in Silicon Valley is basically on the left. So it's really interesting to see that while they were working in China, they were both Google, but particularly Meta. They were also working here in the United States to suppress Americans. And I want to also note something that was really concerning about the Washington Post article on Zuckerberg. It noted that the censorship that Facebook was willing to engage in didn't stop in China. They mentioned at least one example where Facebook expressed a willingness, and I believe even went through with censoring a Chinese dissident here in the United States. And they did that to show that they were willing to cooperate with Beijing. So think about the implications here. Potentially what we have is an example of a company, one of our leading tech companies, that is censoring not just in China, or was willing to censor not just in China, but in our own country, beyond Chinese borders in Western nations, including the United States. That should scare the heck out of all of us.
But fast forward to around 22 or 23, you have Zuckerberg going before committees of Congress and the U.S. Senate and basically blaming the Biden administration, saying, but they made us do it. They were telling us that we had to censor people and our hands were tied. What were we supposed to do?
So Mark Zuckerberg, he changes his story and he changes his tune with the political tide. So let's think about the timeline here. 2019, Mark Zuckerberg says, we got out of China because we really disagreed with them. When it turns out, according to his now former employee, just 5 years earlier, they were actually actively working to appease the Chinese government. But also in, I believe it was 2021, Mark Zuckerberg. In 2020, a year after he gave his Georgetown speech in 2019. Facebook was colluding with the FBI to censor the Hunter Biden laptop story. 1 year later, in 2021, Mark Zuckerberg went before Congress and bragged. He bragged to Congress saying, look at all of these new algorithms that we put in place to flag, identify, and censor mis and disinformation, which we know now is just like disagreeing with the Biden administration. He gave numbers in that hearing about the millions of posts that were being actioned by his platform under their mis and disinformation policies. And now, about a year later in 2022, he changed his tune. Right when Congress changed hands. Remember in 2022, the Republicans won. And in August of that year, just a few months before that happened, Mark Zuckerberg did a really interesting thing. He went on the Joe Rogan show. And on the Joe Rogan show, he basically hinted that they had censored the Hunter Biden laptop story because the FBI told them to. But then he defended his decision. He said, we didn't, we knew, we can trust the FBI and we did it in good faith. The FBI is a very professional organization. We were just doing this to try to protect national security.
That dude blows in the wind like a flag.
Oh, absolutely. And so if I could just finish the circle. So he said that to Joe Rogan. And then just last year, in August of 2024, before President Trump's historic return to the White House, what did Mark Zuckerberg do? He sent a letter to Congress and he said something very interesting. He said, we worked with the FBI to censor the Hunter Biden laptop story and with the White House to censor COVID speech that the government officials disagreed with. But we regret doing that, and we were wrong to do that. And it turns out that and so that was interesting because that was just before the House of Representatives. They have a committee there called the House Judiciary Committee. They did a comprehensive investigation, and they published a report earlier this year, and it actually revealed that Mark Zuckerberg, so they went into the internal records, they subpoenaed the records from Facebook, and they found out that Facebook executives had discussed and they had acknowledged that they were actually, they were watering down their standards in order to appease the Biden administration. So they were taking down content they knew didn't violate their own policies just to make sure the Biden administration was happy for them. That's how far Mark's willing to go when it comes to his bottom line.
Yeah, it seems like. And then for all of the bad decisions, then he makes the big teary-eyed apologies for them as well. We'll take a quick break. There's some other tech areas that I'm interested in picking your brain on. We're talking with Daniel Cochrane of the Heritage Foundation.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. From New York, That Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square. It's That Kevin Show. You know that you can find me on all the social media, the TikTok, the Instagram, the Twitter, the Facebook, the X, whatever it's called now, the Truth Social. We're everywhere. Just look for That Kevin Show wherever you may be. Now, the TikTok thing is kind of interesting because I was one of them last year that for a brief period of time thought I was going to lose TikTok altogether. What is the very latest with that? Let's return to Daniel Cochrane, who is here from the Heritage Foundation. Where do we stand in this drama? Trump kind of has had a back and forth on this issue. When he was president the first time, he was more of the mind that it needed to be shut down, kind of championed the congressional efforts to do that, et cetera, et cetera. He gets sworn into office. Biden no longer wants it. The Republicans seem to no longer want it. The Democrats seem to no longer want it. Trump says, okay, we'll give it a reprieve. Where do we stand with the saga of the TikTok?
Certainly. Well, I think it's critical to understand, what did Congress do in 2024? They passed a bill which President Biden signed, and the bill doesn't shut TikTok down. It simply says that if you're operating a social media platform, that platform cannot be owned by a company under the influence of a foreign adversary. And that's a very small number of countries. That's China, that's places like North Korea, Russia, et cetera. And what that bill does is essentially imposes a divestment requirement saying, look, the Chinese company that owns TikTok, ByteDance, they cannot continue to control the app because ByteDance is under the essentially influence of the Chinese Communist Party, and they're obligated not just to share user data, but they actually, ByteDance, the Chinese parent, has an internal committee comprised of CCP officials, and those officials shape the content policies and algorithmic decisions. And think about what that means for the 170 million Americans. It means that what your feed is serving you up on a daily basis, and a lot of these are young people. It's a lot of young people on TikTok. That's all being controlled in China, ultimately. And so really what Congress did was very common sense. It says, look, you can continue to have TikTok, but we can't have the CCP controlling it. So what President Trump did is he said, look, this law took effect literally hours before I came into office. We need some time to review this. I mean, that was very responsible. If you look at the order, the executive order that extended kind of the deadline, it noted the national security implications. And he said, we're taking this very seriously. And he's absolutely lived up to his word. The people handling this, Vice President Vance and Mike Waltz, right? Both of those people understand the Chinese threat, and the president and his administration have been very clear. They're not going to bend to China. We don't know what the details of a deal will be, but it seems likely that what would be needed is some divestment where a non-Chinese entity controls the application. Yeah. So okay. I think that's what we'll see, hopefully.
We'll see where that goes. Last area of questioning here, Daniel, and thanks for your time. The issue of cryptocurrency is back on the front page, and there's a lot of mixed thoughts about whether or not the Fed should be involved in this. If America tries to regulate crypto, doesn't that negate some of the very features of what crypto was designed to do? Where do things stand with a Federal Reserve currency going digital, and how does that impact the private market, Bitcoin and the rest?
Yeah, so very sort of top level, I think the thing that's really critical to understand is that for crypto, the name of the game is stability. They need to have a standard, legal standards that they can rely on, that are dependable, that don't change, at the drop of a hat. And the problem that the cryptocurrency industry has had for years is that you have entities, federal entities, that are basically enforcing willy-nilly, like the Securities and Exchange Commission, enforcing laws willy-nilly against them. And so it was impossible for them to build businesses and really to predict what the regulatory environment would be month to month, year to year. So what the Trump administration is offering to do, and what Congress, I think, is really moving to do, is provide that framework so they can create stability and actually build businesses that work for all Americans.
Is it good for us to regulate the crypto industry?
Well, look, we have regulations in every other part of our economy, of our financial sector. I tend to think it's overregulated, but I think the people in this industry have been calling for some kind of regulation just because they need assurance of what the standards are, what the rules of the game are.
I'm sure they're not just trying to negate Bitcoin so that they can get a more even playing field. I mean, I understand the argument that you've got to have consistency across the board. And now that there are so many, it's so, it's just out there. It's everywhere. But anyway, on that note, Daniel, we're out of time. But such good information. We appreciate you being with us.
Thank you.
And please come back. Kevin McCullough, That Kevin Show, coming right back from Times Square. Don't change the dial.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. From New York, That Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back. Kevin McCullough, glad to have you with us. That Kevin Show. And we are so thrilled to be able to help children that have nothing to eat and nothing but really dirty, gross water to drink. We're thrilled to be able to give them a new opportunity to have clean, fresh drinking water and delicious, nutritious food. Some rice, some beans, sometimes a little bit of chicken or goat that goes with that. But it's something that will fill their belly, give them protein and carbohydrates so that their body can grow, and it gives them a chance at a better life. And friends, if we don't do it, they will die. Most likely this year. The kids that are on this list, that's how serious it is. Paul Jacobs is back with us from Food for the Poor. And Paul, I remember when we visited a little place called Cadwa, Haiti. It's, I don't know, an hour or so. Well, the drive was an hour or so outside of Port-au-Prince. And then we walked about another hour into the place where they didn't have a road built yet. And there a pastor was trying to hold a little school class and teach the kids some things. And next to the school, out back behind the building, there was this little, I don't know, maybe a 4x4 size little cesspool. I mean, I don't know how you describe it. It wasn't like a flowing water source, but there was a little gathering of water, and there were dogs doing their business and running through it, and there were children that were playing in it. And I think that one child tried to take a drink out of it, and it was horrifying to me. And this was the water supply for this town. This was the main water supply for this town. And we asked questions of the pastor, and he said, "It is a miracle that you're here. You're an answer to prayer." And I came back and told my listeners about it, and you helped me tell that story. But a year later, you and I went back, and one of those children came up and grabbed me by the hand and took me over to the water filtration system. He had a little cup in his hand, and he took some of that water out. He swigged it. He wiped his mouth, and he said, "Mister, that's delicious water." And I thought, wow, what a difference this can make when people get involved.
Delicious water. Just think about the last time you had a bottle of water, you had something from your tap, or maybe you had a water fountain in a public place. Maybe it's on your job, and you took a sip, went back to your whatever you were doing. You didn't consider it was delicious water.
No.
Maybe you had you had a moment just to sit back, and you're thirsty, and you just didn't even think about it. Probably couldn't even tell me what it was. But for these families, desperate, waiting, every moment they were praying, asking God when, and then an answer came from a listener just like you to answer their prayer. This is why we're asking you right now for the next Kadwa, for the next community, for the next child that is awaiting patiently for that delicious water. You could be the answer right now.
855-349-4673, 855-349-4673, or go to instagood.org. Instagood is one of the most common hashtags on all of the social webs because people want to do good. Well, if you want to do instant good, go to instagood.org and give a gift right now, because when you do, we have a special matching challenge that's underway. If you give a gift right now, it will be doubled in impact. So if you give a gift of $160 to feed 2 children through Food for the Poor, 2 children that will not eat otherwise, they will not have clean, nutritious drinking water otherwise, they will have those polluted sources, they will have that polluted source of water. But if you give right now, twice the impact, twice as many kids helped, twice as much food, twice as many meals, and clean drinking water for all of them. Everyone that we get to is going to have clean drinking water going forward. 855-349-4673, 855-349-4673. Paul, I want to narrow down on something that we were talking about there, though, because the source of clean drinking water, when you have parasites and things that are in the water, it's not just the dehydrating effect of having bad water that kills people. Many times it is the germs and the parasites and the things that are in that water, chemicals from machinery or waste products from animals or other things that work its way into the child's system. And when you're trying to survive life with an immune system that's badly damaged because you've been malnourished for most of your life, you have no immune system to fight it with. And so an intestinal bug that you and I might get over in just a day, not feel very good, but be back at work the next day, will take their life. It'll send them into comas, and they never wake up again. I mean, this is a really cruel. Having no access to clean water is one of the cruelest ways to die. And yet there are children that die every year. And we can prevent that if people get involved right now.
It's interesting when you just take a walk with me back to our trip to Haiti, where Kevin and I visited all of these communities. One of the common things that you see in children in these communities where they do not have proper nutrition, they're not eating every day, and of course the water is just filthy, is you see children with these severe runny noses, sometimes crusting right below their nose. We've all seen this in our children. I mean, Kevin, your kids, you just take a little napkin out there, and and mom's probably got something ready at the ready, and just wipes the nose, and you keep it moving. But in Haiti, it is a sign of something more severe. It is a sign of a respiratory illness that has been brought on by a weakened immune system. It's a respiratory illness that, quite frankly, because the immune system is so compromised, and because these children are not getting the nutrition they need, and that next cup of water will be just as dirty and polluted as the last, that these children, for a common cold, could be life-threatening. And so we're asking you right now that because your gift is going to help provide food, provide nutrition, make sure these children are drinking water that is not going to make them sick with every sip, that you are saving a life. Don't take that lightly. You are saving a life of a child, or 4 or 25 with $1,000 gift. And I know you probably just said to yourself, where am I going to get this $1,000 that you talk of? I want you to consider not the money, but I want you to consider 25 children whose lives have been put back on track because your compassion and generosity took front and center today.
Yeah, friend, and if you can do those larger gifts, and I have many people that watch and listen that are able to do that, your gift, your impact will be doubled right now. So why not give that big gift and help as many children as possible? We know of 100 right now that have not been helped that were on our list from late last summer, and we want to make sure that before we even get out of the first quarter of this year, that we've assured their parents, those kids, hey, you're not going to starve to death this year. We're going to make sure you have clean drinking water and healthy, nutritious food at least twice a day for the coming year. Please make that call. 855-349-4673, 855-349-4673, or go to instagood.org.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough.
Sleepy Joe claims his golf handicap is a 6. but his handicap is actually a 26. Mental. We should probably call someone a loser today. Of course. Wear a suit next time. No. Kamalama Ding Dong, all caps. What a loser. I'm 2-0 against pantsuits. Pantsuits. Bingo. For Zelensky, tweet, sorry, Vlad, you must be this tall to ride. Or coattails. Adam better looking than him too, or something like that. I don't know. Horse face. Post. Next one. Sorry, Democrats, we're no longer spending $40 billion a year to teach non-binary llamas how to line dance. You'd think Democrats would applaud catching that. They didn't applaud a 9-year-old who beat cancer, so. If I cured cancer, Democrats would march. For cancer rights. For cancer rights. Sad. Okay, let's tweet about Canada. Okay, how about I spoke with Trudeau? Okay, I spoke with, is he the one that people think his wife is a man? Are you thinking Emmanuel Macron? Maybe. Or Obama. Neither are confirmed though. So. Okay, all right. Your favorite president is making Canada the 51st state. Don't say Canada though. Say like Kazakhstan or something. I like it. Willing to trade Pocahontas and Pelosi. And Rosie O'Donnell. No takebacks. And who would he be trading him to? I don't. Just tweet it. No more men in women's sports. Let's see. Maybe if it's got an apple, it's got a banana. Run with it. And then put welcome to the common sense revolution. Then let's wrap up the day with a tweet that gets the media all fired up. Here. Our incredible law enforcement at the border is working hard to make America safe again. Is it edgy enough? ICE. Uber for illegals. That'll do it.
Somewhere in the bowels of the city that never sleeps
Kevin McCullough, radio host with Salem Media,
is a man also not sleeping.
Syndicated radio talk show host Kevin McCullough.
And that guy would like a word with you.
Many of you know him as Voxtradamus.
Of course that Kevin show is going to be great. The only thing that could be greater, of course, would be that Donald show. We don't have that, so we have that Kevin show.
Featuring the music of Dick Tunney and the Dream in Color Orchestra. Still to come. This hour, Kristin Wollett and Brett Varvel from Season 2 of County Rescue stop by. Sketch comedy from Nick Peterson and Al Berry. And returning to the spotlight, Josiah Queen follows up on his debut. All straight ahead. And now from Times Square, a man who I've said rotten things about over the course of the last 2 years, of which only half are true. I'd like to apologize. Here's the Kevin!
Wow, what got into you? I'll accept your apology, yes. Well, okay, I thought so. He's holding up a picture of one of the children from the Food for the Poor website. And this is how you know that he is genuinely concerned, because he has now adjusted his entire attitude and actions. So thank you, David. Thank you for your donation. Friends, we do need your help. 855-349-4673. 855-349-4673 or instagood.org. Instagood.org. You heard from Paul Jacobs. He's going to be back in this hour. We've got some fun stuff for you. We've got the stars of County Rescue Season 2 that are going to join us. The lovely, the beautiful Kristin Wollett is going to be here, and also Brett Varvel, who they play colleagues on the show, but looking forward to chatting with them. And I just want to say And I don't do like a lot of this throughout the year, but I don't apologize for using the platform that God has given me to be able to impact lives. A number of years ago, when he gave me the opportunity to go from being a local host in one little market and then taken to Chicago, a bigger market, and then New York, a bigger market, and then start a syndication operation. And now we reach upwards of close to 6 million people across television, 2 television networks, BizTV and Salem News Channel, 300 plus radio stations on the weekend, taking That Kevin Show. A couple of hundred more taking the show during the week, Monday through Friday, That Kevin Show. AM 970 The Answer in New York, putting me on weeknights to talk about different topics that are important on Radio Night Live. Thankful for that. And then all of those of you that have found me on social media within the last year, it's blown me away. We're averaging 500,000 viewers just on Instagram. There's another 100,000 or so that are watching my TikToks. My Twitter is in the slow process of being rebuilt. You know that I was banned from Twitter the very same day that President Donald Trump was, and somehow he got his account back before I did. But we are working on that. I'm hopeful that we're going to get that original account back. But in the meantime, we're up to about 50,000 viewers on X on a weekly basis. All this to say that across all of these platforms, I feel very honored and humbled to have the chance to talk to you about what I think, about my opinions about things. It's a rare thing that any of us get to be heard by anybody else. So I count it an exceptionally rare and cherished thing that you choose to listen to me. And as we do this together, I'm just always grateful that you're there, that you have responded so well over all these years. And so I told God a long time ago, I said, I don't care if I'm on secular news talk stations or Christian stations or whatever. I want to use part of what you give me that I get to enjoy all of this from to do good things back into his kingdom. And so Food for the Poor, we've been on a little journey with them for the last few weeks, and we only have about 2.5 weeks left. And so I'm very concerned for these remaining 100 children that have not yet been reached for this coming year, 2025. Now, these are children that we've already identified. There's already an identification process done by pastors and youth workers in the countries where Food for the Poor is at. These are the worst case scenario children. These are children that will go up to 72 hours at a time without any food available to them. But if they are in the Food for the Poor feeding program, they get 700 meals over the course of the next year. That's 2 meals a day. Right now, they go every 3 days without eating. For $80 for the coming year, one child, 750 plus meals for the entire year. And it's not nebulous food. It's the kind of food that they need. It's rice, it's beans, it's protein. There's some vitamin packets that are added to it to give them a nutritional benefit, but it is the kind of stuff that will help an undernourished body begin to grow healthy in places like Haiti and Guatemala, where I've been with Food for the Poor in person, and I've seen the work firsthand, and I know the impact that your gift has when it's given. In fact, one of the most memorable times that I was with Food for the Poor, we were in a third world Caribbean country, and they put me on the chow line. They do different feeding programs. Some are taken to the homes, some are done in the small villages through the churches, some are done in community centers. This happened to be in a community center at a larger communal area where they were helping to feed people. And I had these huge pots, biggest things I've ever seen, of rice and beans, and the whole thing was just take a scoop, get it on a plate, and hand it to a child that was coming through the line. And the just pure joy that these kids had when they would get that food, and how many times I saw an older sibling take his and give it to the younger sibling first. a couple of times, sometimes, to make sure that happened. It touched my heart. But the other part of what you're giving with that $80 right now is permanently good access to clean drinking water. In many of these places in Haiti and Guatemala, the water sources are polluted, and that they have disease and bacteria and things that will kill especially undernourished children rather easily, because if you dehydrate as an undernourished child, your chances of dying skyrocket. So clean drinking water and 700 meals plus for the year for $80. 855-349-4673 or instagood.org.
Ready or not, we'll be right back. That Kevin. Now, back to That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square. It's That Kevin Show, thatkevinshow.com, That Kevin Show, all social media. Glad to have you with us. You know, one of the things that we do besides talking to people like, congressmen and senators and newsmakers and so forth, one of the things that we like to do is also offer you family-safe, family-friendly entertainment options that can boost your time with your family, but it can also be something that you can give some degree of trust to for your kids and your family viewing. And along those lines, PureFlix came along years ago, started producing independent content. A number of other companies have popped up since then. Salem's own salemnow.com is one of those places where we offer some of that type of fare. But there's a lot of partners. Angel, Great American, which came along and now merged with PureFlix, and numbers of others that have offered this kind of work. And the portfolio, if you will, of family-safe entertainment, family-friendly entertainment continues to grow. And along those lines, a show that is entering its second season called County Rescue on the Great American Network is about to launch. And we are honored to have a couple of its shining stars, Kristin Wollett and Brett Varvel, join us. And Kristin and Brett, it's wonderful to have you with us on That Kevin Show. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us, Kevin.
I know that when you were growing up, you probably thought, you want to go make movies and be a star. You ended up as actors and doing what you do. Was it important to you, or did you ever think in your development, in your craft, that we were going to have a countercultural revolution when it came to entertainment and have to do things kind of in a counterintuitive way to the mainstream, if you will, in order to have family-friendly fare still offered? Brett, let's start with you.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing to think about, because when I was growing up, faith-based entertainment or Christian films, or however you want to label it, were very few. I mean, there wasn't a lot of options.
And they weren't that good.
That's true. We've improved greatly, we'll say that. Yeah. But the fact that people want it was, I think, a big motivator. It's not something that we're just shoving down people's throats.
Right.
And the quality has just continued to get better, and it's brought to the surface these artists who do have faith at the core of who they are, and they want to provide this family-friendly environment for families to sit at home and be able to watch a show like County Rescue. And it's an inviting thing to get into the marketplace, and we're so thankful for Great American Family, who stands on the pillars of faith, family, and country to bring content to people in a time where not a lot of networks will take that type of approach.
Kristin, it's gotten so bad that in light of the Oscars just passed, and I have to say, the only suitable film that we took our daughter to see of any of the Best Picture nominees was one that had witches in it. You're getting to the point now where nothing that the mainstream is offering is really palatable, to the degree that Mel Gibson and Roseanne Barr and a few others have banded together and said, we're going to start a studio of our own. Lots of people see this. You're the mom of a number of children. You can reveal the actual number, but I doing a little research. I know you're a mom that cares about this kind of stuff because you want to preserve the innocence and the life of a child for as long as possible.
Absolutely. I definitely do. And that's the biggest difference. When I was young, sitting in front of the TV, my mom could turn it on and she could walk away and not be worried. I was watching, Saved by the Bell and like things that were just, they were great little shows. Or
now
whatnot.
I know I'm older than everybody on the interview, but I was thinking of your show, and it reminded me. It was probably before your time, but in the 70s there was a show called Emergency, and it was about a county rescue sort of operation where they would go out and put out fires and grab people out of dangerous situations and help them survive. And I was like, that was on a mainline channel. That was like ABC or CBS when that was out, 150 years ago. Now we have to go to the special place to find the family-friendly version.
Right. I can't put on a streaming service and like walk away. That doesn't happen. My kids, I'm terrified of the things that they could see. And so I'm so grateful that Great American Family is doing this, where they're actually creating content that is good. They're elevating the bar on, the acting and the budgets and the writing and all of the things that go into making a movie, to make it enjoyable for viewers and something that I'm confident that my kids can see, and not only not see anything they're not supposed to and help to preserve their innocence, but then to also start really good questions about faith and why things are the way they are, and to open up good conversations. And so that's really important to me right now.
Well, I think it's a wonderful gift to the families of America, and Great American Family has led the way on this, particularly in the home delivery. And the partnership with PureFlix, I just think, added so much bang for the buck from both organizations. Let's talk about your show in particular, County Rescue. You've been signed for a second season. It's about to launch. It's a fun show, but for people that haven't seen it, that haven't found Great American Family yet, what will they find when they tune it in, Brett?
So the season one focus around Danny, the character Danny. She feels called to be an EMS worker, an EMT by trade, and she believes that God has called her to be a rescuer, only to come to find out that it's a lot harder than she realized it was going to be. She starts to have a lot of doubt in the midst of all this throughout the first season. And then we're transitioning into season 2, where that journey only gets more difficult. And we also get to explore the other characters, the other EMS workers, who are dealing with not only having to serve their community by being rescuers, but then when they get back to the station or when they go home, how do you deal with the trauma that they experience out in the field? How do you deal with the real life circumstances that don't go away? And how does that impact who you are and what you do? And so it's a show that focuses heavily on the faith element of how faith impacts what we do, but then also family. This EMS team they see each other as a family, and they need to lean on each other and work together in moments of strife or tension or the ups and the downs of life. And so I think that audiences can expect some good humor. They can expect some thrill and excitement with the EMS, with the rescues, but then they can also expect a lot of relatability. These are characters that people will be able to point to the screen and say, that's me, or that's who I want to be. Yeah. And I think that that's something that the show really is kind of like the treasure of the show, is that it's so relatable.
Well, I hope you will check it out. It's streaming on Great American Family, and you can go and see that. Great American Media, of course, kind of the signature for what they do is just quality. That's like the brand that they want to be known for and that they are putting out. And Kristin and Brett, it's fun to see you guys be part of that and to continue that tradition on. Lots of great things, I think, coming for family entertainment in the years to come. And did you ever think there would be that many in the professional acting ranks that would be saying, hey, I think this might be what I really want to do? I mean, it's not all about the little golden statues, is it?
Yeah, it's not. I mean, the awards, the accolades, the praise of men, that all is very fleeting. And I think what we're doing is we're a part of entertainment that has purpose and can last beyond even our own lives.
Yeah.
And the legacy that it will leave.
Kristin, last thought. What do you want people to take away from County Rescue when they watch this year?
That God is faithful and that he is constant, and that if you do feel like you have a calling and you want to do something with your life, just because it's not working out the way that you want it to or the way that you feel that it should, that doesn't mean that God's not present. Just to have faith in him.
All right, check it out. County Rescue Season 2.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. From New York, That Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square. Kevin McCullough, glad to have you with us. I have been telling you about the incredible work of Food for the Poor. Last summer, we set out on an effort, a journey, if you will, to try to feed a few hundred children. And we came up about 100 kids short of being able to help everyone that we knew would need help in 2025, that Food for the Poor had already identified. They've already know where these children are located, which country, Guatemala, Haiti, El Salvador, the rest. They've already identified, they already know a secure worker that's in the area that can deliver the food. What we need to do is get the resources to that person so that that child can eat for the coming year. And your gift of $80 will supply more than 700 meals for one child in the coming year. And if you call in the next 15 minutes, that's going to be doubled. So you'll feed 2 kids 700 meals for the next year if you call right now. But these are desperate children that don't have any other means of being fed. Paul Jacobs is back with us from Food for the Poor. Paul, it's very stunning for people the first time that they come into contact with severe malnutrition, the distended belly, the orange hair, the joints that don't look quite right and how they hang on the body. But it doesn't take long for steady nutrition once it's in that little child's body and the hand of God is working in that child's body to get that body back to health and to see. But sometimes the help has come too late. And I know that this is one of the things that breaks your heart when you're out on the field doing visits.
The Nutritional Recuperation Center in our Port-au-Prince office in Haiti, Food for the Poor Haiti, is a perfect example of what you talked about. These are children that come in dire conditions. We're not just talking about a child that maybe has missed a meal here or there. We're talking about acute, severe malnutrition. A child that may be 18 months old, 2 years old, and that child probably weighs as much as a newborn. It is shocking to see. It is shocking to believe that it exists in 2025, but it's a reality. But with the Nutritional Recuperation Center, and as I talk to you about that, this is where your gifts and your love and compassion is going towards. Food for the Poor is not a cookie cutter solution. It is making sure that the unique needs in the places where these children need to be fed are met. And the Nutritional Recuperation Center for newborns, mothers with small children are getting the nutrition they need. In fact, many of the mothers come and they said, my child is alive because of this. Now, there are cases where we get those children too late, but this is where you come in. Your gift right now is not going to feed a child not only today, but it's going to enable our ministry partners to go out into the communities and tell the mothers, go into the communities in Haiti. And regardless of whatever you hear in the news about Haiti, Food for the Poor is working constantly. Our partners are telling us that they are determined more than ever to make sure that we get to these families, and we still are delivering food. The Nutrition Recuperation Center is still in operation, and you're still needed right now. 855-349-4673. We just don't want to be too late. And friends, I was somewhat disappointed that we didn't get these final 100 kids back in the summer, but we can make up for that now because these kids still need food and they still need clean drinking water. You talk about nutritional recuperation. Starvation is part of the problem, but sources of clean drinking water and not being available is an even bigger problem, and it has far more devastating impact far faster. Paul Jacobs, you and I have traveled together and seen the difference in a village that has nothing but dirty and putrid water and a village that has a Food for the Poor water filtration system 1 year later, and the difference is miraculous. The energy of the kids, the whole community, it's a different place. Chauveline is a perfect example of what you speak of. A little girl that when we first visited her community in La Fosse, Haiti, I'll tell you what LaFosse means in just a moment. When we visited her home, she lived in a shack, probably the size of a backyard shed, made of rusted metal and rotten wood. Her mother sent her about a quarter of a mile away to fish out whatever water that was clean enough in this pond that was filled with algae. And one side you have individuals washing their vehicles, another side you have animals doing their business. And then she has to come back with this water and boil it. And I remember asking Chauvelin in LaFosse, Haiti, what does the water taste like? And I thought to myself, what in the world are you doing? Asking what does water taste like? And she says it tastes like mud. You see, that place, LaFosse, in Creole translates to the grave. But we went back to this community. In fact, not LaFosse, but where her family was moved to because of your generosity with listeners just like you. And this child was unrecognizable, drinking clean, safe water, eating every day, and thriving because of listeners just like you.
Friends, we need your help. There's 100 children at risk of dying this year if we do not help them. 855-349-4673, 855-349-4673, or go to instagood.org or text Kevin to 93999, 855-349-4673.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. Here he is from New York. That Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back. So glad to have you with us. So, if you're calling 855-349-4673, if you are making a difference in helping the children of Central and South America in the poorest countries in our hemisphere, wonderful to know that, and thank you for those of you that have done that. Wanted to tell you about one other thing that is kind of cool, and I think that some of you will really kind of dig it. This year, earlier in the year, my pastor at my home church started us on a series that he was teaching through in the book of Daniel. Now, if you're not a church-going person, it doesn't mean you have to tune out. Listen to this. One of the reasons why is because in a world that we live in, like the one around us, I live in New York City, doesn't get more raw or real than that. If you happen to be a person of faith or principle, specifically a Bible-believing Christian, you may find that some of your ideas, my ideas, not so well received. So earlier this year, we started a new podcast called How Do We Live? And the concept of it is very simple. In a world where there's a hostility against the God of the Bible, there's an outright hatred for the text of the Bible, and there's a lot of suspicion about people like me who follow God and want to read his Bible and try to figure out what he wants of my life from me. And so we've started talking with really great expositors, Bible teachers, people that understand the text of Scripture, to give us some insight into how to live in the midst of that kind of culture and to do so effectively. And Pastor Ryan Batesel of Emergence Church in New Jersey started us off in the book of Daniel, where, and if you're Jewish or Christian, you probably know this, but Daniel was a part of the Israeli exiles that the Babylonians kidnapped from their home, marched them the equivalency of South Carolina to New York City, and did everything they could to turn them into other things. They castrated them, they mutilated their sexuality, they brainwashed them with Babylonian education. They said, you can't worship the God that you grew up worshiping anymore. You have to become entirely a Babylonian in the process. Daniel and his friends did not succumb. They went through the process, but they didn't succumb to the brainwashing and all the rest of it. So what's some secrets about how they survived in a culture that was hostile to them? And if you don't think this is applicable, friends, look at what we're dealing with. The wars, the economics, the hatred of America, the lack of understanding of why we want to get boys out of girls' sports. Like, there is a direct hostility, kind of parallel to the Babylonian time. So, if you email me, thatkevinshow@gmail.com, thatkevinshow@gmail.com, I'll send you the link to the podcast, and you can subscribe and follow along with it if you want to. All on your own. It's absolutely free. Don't want anything for it. Just want to send it to you. But send us a request to thatkevinshow@gmail.com, thatkevinshow@gmail.com, and just say, hey, I want that podcast about how we live in the culture. How do we live? How do we live? How do we live in a culture that hates God and is very suspect of his people? And right now, I'm thankful that America still is a land that honors God. At least a wide group of us do across the country. And I pray for God's mercy on us every day. All right. I'm also praying for the help that we need to make happen for the children of Haiti and Guatemala. My friends at Food for the Poor have said, Kevin, these 100 children that we have left, they're in the worst condition. They're the most impoverished. They're the most starved. And if we do not speak for them, if we do not get people to, kind of one by one say, hey, I got that one, they will likely die this year. These are critical care, critical case needs that we are trying to help Food for the Poor plug the hole on this time. So 855-349-4673, 855-349-4673. We're doing two things. We're delivering clean water. We're delivering nutritious food. For an entire year, for one child, $80. Takes care of the child. They get 2 meals a day. That's 700 plus meals for that child for the whole year. $80. I can't take my lovely bride to brunch in New York City on Sundays for $80. Well, maybe one of us could have, eat. But at that, it's even not that fancy. So here's my plea. If you care at all about the plight of God's creations, God's children, these little kids that are in poverty and going 72 hours at a time in economies that do not work, under governments that do not know how to solve the problem, we have a faith-based, trusted partner in Food for the Poor. You know that I'm not the only one that sings their praises. You hear Mike Gallagher talk about it. You hear Hugh Hewitt talk about it. You've heard Larry Elder. You've heard others that have said, hey, help Food for the Poor. These 100 kids need our help. 855-349-4673. And I've only got a couple of weeks left to be able to do this, and I want to make sure that we speak for all 100 of them. 855-349-4673. You can also text my name, Kevin, to 93999, or you can go to the website instagood.org. Instagood. It's one of the most popular hashtags in social media for people that are interested in charity. Instagood.org will help feed children today. Instagood.org. Instagood, like Instagram, instagood.org to do that. What will they get? 2 meals per day for the remainder of 2025 and into 2026. They will then also be given guaranteed access to clean drinking water. Why does that matter? It's very simple. If you have polluted water, you have a bigger threat to your life than if you don't have food. Because dirty, polluted water that has bacteria and harmful agents in it, and when you have animals bathing and people doing their laundry and everything else in the water that you're drinking, that's the way it works. You're going to get sick. It tears these kids apart. We can fix that.
Ready or not, we'll be right back.